How many of you love college football, especially our Oklahoma Sooners? The experience of watching your team play against its biggest rivals while the stadium is booming with energy is simply unmatched. But what if college football as we know it changed because players were able to receive payment? What would this mean for athletes, universities, and us, the fans? This debate has been overlooked by many, but it is an important subject that should be highlighted. Good morning. My name is Michael Mason, and I am a football fanatic. I have watched football since I was very young, and I played football when I was in high school. Football is my favorite sport, and I am very passionate about this topic. Today, we will be exploring the debate for compensation of college football players. I will begin by analyzing the debate's history, detailing reasons why universities should not pay these athletes. I will also explain the consequences that would emerge, including legal and financial issues that would cripple the sport of college football. I hope that by the end of my speech, you will gain a better understanding of the debate of paying college football players, and that you will ultimately support my position. The discussion of compensating college football players is complex. Rules prohibiting universities from paying them are often seen as inequitable. But there's more to this debate than you might realize. To start, allow me to explain the NCAA's rules. The NCAA states that Division I and II schools provide $3.6 billion in athletic scholarships annually to more than 180,000 student athletes, and that education is the most rewarding benefit of the student athlete experience. There are three main reasons why people believe that this form of compensation is unfair. First, many believe that they should be paid for their physical contributions, as football accounts for the largest estimated number of injuries in college sports, per the CDC. Second, although the NCAA allows players to get jobs, they are unable to work due to the amount of time that they dedicate to their sport and education, according to CBS Sports. And third, football players generate an average of $31.9 million for their respective schools, according to Business Insider. But they only see this money in scholarships valued for significantly less. In 2019, a survey conducted by College Pulse polled 2,501 college students and determined that 53% favor allowing colleges to pay their athletes. This means that the majority of the poll believes that the current system of universities providing scholarships is insufficient. So now you know why many people, including college students, support paying these athletes. But let's take a look at why universities should not follow this system. There are a series of legal and financial issues prohibiting universities from paying football players. The first issue is the threat of Title IX lawsuits. According to the NCAA, Title IX laws for universities mandate that men and women have equal opportunities to receive financial assistance from institutions. Schools who violate these laws would be subject to lawsuits that could result in loss of scholarships and postseason bans. If schools paid their football players, they would need to pay all other sports programs to abide by this law. The problem is that other sports produce far less money than college football teams. According to Zacks, the second highest grossing sport, men's basketball, only produces $8.1 million, 3 times less than college football. This means that most universities would be unable to pay their athletes equally, and it would violate Title IX requirements and require them to eliminate their funding. Not only would paying these athletes compromise universities, but it would also hinder the game. I mentioned that college football teams generate greater profit than others, but for schools that do not have elite football programs, the ability to pay their players becomes very difficult. According to footballscoop.com, the 15 highest grossing college football teams produce over $80 million in revenue and are also annually ranked as the nation's most talented. However, not every program is capable of generating these numbers, as many only produce around $30 million in revenue. While a team like Alabama, who generates an annual revenue of $94 million, would be able to pay their football players, a team like West Virginia, who generates only $25 million, would not. If only certain schools were able to directly pay its players, elite recruits would most likely only want to play for those programs. Could you imagine how unfair the competition level would be if the most talented players migrated to only certain schools? I believe that this scenario would result in a tremendous loss for us viewers if the competitive landscape became unbalanced, as who would want to watch only a few schools dominate every year? As college football fans, we should recognize that compensation should not be in the form of direct payment, but search for solutions that would not cripple the integrity of universities. Take, for example, California's Fair Play to Play Act, which would allow players to make money off their names and likenesses, per Sports Illustrated. Recently, the NCAA Board of Governors has voiced support for the act, according to NPR, to improve its relationship with its athletes. I believe that this method of compensation is an improvement, but paying players a salary similar to professional leagues produces overwhelming legal problems for universities. So we began with an overview of the history of the debate for compensating college football players. We also learned about the factors that prevent universities from paying these athletes and how they would diminish the level of competition. If you are a college football fan, you should acknowledge that it would be a mistake for the NCAA to implement a system that would destroy the integrity of its universities. I hope that I have informed you of why college football players should not be paid and that you ultimately understand the NCAA's position. Thank you.